I don't really use dating apps anymore, obviously, but back then it just felt like a normal thing. Like everyone I knew was on at least one. Even people who said they hated them still had one sitting on their phone. I had just moved into this place with my roommate, Kayla, and everything felt kind of new, I guess. New job, new routine, different part of the city. I didn't really know anyone nearby besides her, so yeah, I downloaded one of those apps just to see what was out there. I wasn't even taking it that serious at first. I would open it when I was bored, like when I got home from work or if I was just laying in bed scrolling. Most of the conversations didn't go anywhere, which I think is pretty normal. People either stop replying or it just feels forced after like 2 days. I wasn't expecting anything serious. Honestly, I just didn't want to feel so isolated. I guess that's the word. I worked, get there around 8:30, leave a little after 5, and then just come home. Most of the time I just went straight back to the apartment. Kayla worked different hours than me, so we didn't always see each other much during the week. She did night shifts at a hospital, so sometimes when I was waking up, she was just getting back, and vice versa. We got along fine, like no issues, just kind of coexisting, I guess. Anyway, that's kind of where I was at when I matched with him. His name was Dan, or at least that's what he used. He didn't have a ton of pictures, just a couple, and they weren't super clear. Nothing that really stood out as a red flag, though. I mean, people do that all the time. We started messaging, and it was normal. He asked what I did for work, where I was from, basic stuff like that. He wasn't overly flirty or anything, which I liked because some guys on there are just a lot right away. This felt more relaxed. After like a day or two, he asked if I had Instagram. That's pretty common too, so I didn't think much of it. I gave it to him, and we moved the conversation there. Looking back, I don't know why I didn't just keep it on the app, but it didn't seem like a big deal at the time. The first thing I noticed was that he would reply really fast, like almost instantly, even when I took a while. I thought he just happened to be on his phone a lot, but it started to feel kind of off after a bit, like slightly uncomfortable. He also asked a lot of questions, more than usual. Not just how was your day, but like really specific things. What time I left work, what route I usually took home, what days I worked late. I didn't answer everything. I kind of brushed some of it off or gave vague answers. I remember even joking once like, "Why are you interrogating me?" And he just said he liked knowing things. That was the first moment where I felt a little weird about it. Still, I didn't cut it off right away. I don't know why. I think I was just trying to not overreact. People can be awkward over text, and I didn't want to assume the worst. So I kept talking to him for a few more days. But then it got different. He started bringing up things I had posted on my Instagram, but in a way that felt too detailed. Like not just, "That's a nice picture," but commenting on small things in the background. Once he mentioned the street name that was barely visible on a sign behind me in one of my photos. I hadn't even noticed it until he pointed it out. Another time he said something about a coffee shop I go to sometimes, and he was like, "You go there a lot, right?" I mean, yeah, I had posted from there before, but the way he said it felt like he knew more than just what was on my page. I started replying less after that. Not fully ghosting, but just slower, shorter responses. I think he noticed because he started double texting a lot. Like if I didn't answer in an hour, he'd send another message asking if I was okay or if he did something wrong. It just felt like too much. So I told him straight up that I didn't think it was going to work. I tried to be polite about it, just said I wasn't really feeling it and didn't want to lead him on. He replied immediately, asking why, saying he thought we had a connection, all that. I didn't really engage with that. I just said I was sure about it, and then I blocked him. On Instagram and on the app. And that was it, or at least I thought it was. For a couple weeks, nothing happened. I forgot about him completely. My life just went back to normal. Work, home, sometimes watching shows with Kayla when our schedules lined up. Then one day, I got a message from a number I didn't recognize. Just a random number, and the message said, "You looked really good in that dress today." I thought it was someone I knew messing with me, or maybe I had given my number to someone and forgot. It happens. So I replied asking who it was. No answer for a while. Then later that evening, another message came through. This time it said, "The blue one from this morning. It fits you really nice." That's when I felt that drop in my stomach, because I had worn a blue dress to work that day, and I hadn't posted anything about it anywhere. No pictures. I remember staring at my phone for a while, trying to think of who it could be. I even checked with a couple friends, asking if they gave my number to anyone as a joke or something. Everyone said no. I didn't reply after that. I just ignored it. The next day, I got another message. This one said, "Busy at the office today, huh?" That's when I started actually getting scared, because I never posted where I worked. Not on my Instagram, not anywhere public. I was pretty careful about that kind of thing, or at least I thought I was. I showed Kayla that night when she got home. She kind of brushed it off, but even she admitted it was weird. The messages kept coming over the next few days. It felt like whoever it was watching. Like they knew my routine. They mentioned the grocery store I went to, the time I usually got home. Even one time said something about me sitting in my car for a few minutes before going inside, which I do sometimes just scrolling on my phone. That part really got to me. I started changing small things. Leaving work at slightly different times, going to different stores, even taking different routes home. It didn't really help though, because the messages didn't stop. Eventually I went to the police. Kayla convinced me. We went together and I showed them the messages. They took a report. I could tell they didn't have much to go on. It was just a number, no name, no clear suspect. I mentioned the guy from the dating app, but I didn't have any proof it was him. So basically nothing happened. But a few nights later, something else did. I had gone to bed kind of early that night. I had work the next morning, and I was just tired. Kayla was already asleep too, since she had a shift later that night. Sometime in the middle of the night, I woke up to a noise downstairs, like something falling. It was enough to wake me up, and once I was awake, I just had that feeling, like something wasn't right. Everything was quiet after that, but I couldn't shake it. So I grabbed my phone and called Kayla, since her room was on the other side of the apartment. She answered after a couple rings, sounding half asleep, and I asked if she heard that noise. She said no at first, but I told her I was pretty sure it came from downstairs. After a few seconds, she said she'd come check with me. We met in the hallway, both kind of just standing there before going down. I remember neither of us really wanted to be the first one to move. We went down together, turned on the lights, and checked around. Nothing looked out of place. Like everything was exactly how we left it. Nothing knocked over. Doors and windows all looked closed. It didn't make sense, because I know I heard something. We checked the kitchen, the living room. Then Kayla said we should check the front door, just in case. And when we got to it, that's when we saw it. The doorbell camera, it was completely covered in tape. It wasn't like one piece of tape either. It was layered, like someone took time to make sure it was fully covered. I remember reaching out and then stopping because I didn't even want to touch it at first. Kayla was the one who peeled part of it back, and underneath it was just the camera lens, but obviously it couldn't see anything like that. The noise could have been anything, like something falling or whatever, but this was intentional. Someone had to come right up to the door and do that. Not quickly either. It took effort. Kayla immediately said we should call the police again, and this time I didn't hesitate. While she was on the phone, I checked the locks like 3 times. The police came, we told them what happened. They asked if we had any other cameras, but at that point we only had the doorbell one. They checked around outside too, like the yard and the street, but there wasn't anything obvious. No one hanging around, no cars that seemed suspicious, nothing like that. It was just empty. Officers said it was possible someone was messing with us. The next few days were really tense. I barely focused at work. I kept thinking about it. Every time the door opened at the office or someone walked in, I'd look up right away. I started noticing people more, like really paying attention to faces, trying to see if anyone looked familiar in a way I couldn't place. Kayla and I decided to get more cameras after that. One for the garage and one for the back door. It made me feel a little better, but not really. It just made me more aware that something could be happening. The messages kept coming, but then they stopped. It wasn't gradual. It just stopped. One day I got nothing, then the next day nothing again. After about 3 days, I started thinking whoever it was gave up, or got bored, or got scared after the police thing. I didn't know, but I tried not to think too hard about it because I just wanted it to be over. About a week after the messages stopped, it was during the evening, I think around 8 or 9. Kayla was home, which wasn't always the case, so we were just sitting in the living room watching something. I just remember feeling kind of relaxed for the first time in a while. At some point, Kayla got up to grab something from the kitchen, and then she called out to me, in that tone where something's off. I went over and she was standing near the front door, holding something in her hand. It was tape, the same kind that had been on the doorbell camera. I felt that same drop in my stomach again, like instantly. We both looked at the door and sure enough, the camera was covered again. I don't understand how we didn't notice it earlier. We had been home for hours. That's when we checked the other cameras. Kayla pulled up the app on her phone, and we went to the garage camera first. At first, it just looked normal, like the usual empty garage. She scrolled back a bit in the footage, and then we saw it. There was a point during the night, around 2 or 3 a.m. from the previous night, where the garage window, you could see it shift slightly. It was really subtle, like if you weren't paying attention, you'd miss it. Then this shape came through. A person. They were crawling through the window, slowly. I remember how low to the ground they stayed, like almost pressed down as much as possible. Their face was covered, I think with something dark, a mask, or just cloth. I couldn't really tell. They dropped down inside the garage, and then they moved out of the camera frame. That part is what really messed with me. Because once they left the frame, we had no idea where they went. And the garage connects directly to the inside of the house, which means they were in there. At some point, while we were asleep, or even while we were home and didn't notice, they were inside the house, walking around, seeing everything. I remember saying that out loud, kind of like I needed to hear it to understand it, and Kayla just shook her head like she didn't want to even think about it. We checked the back door camera too, but it didn't show much besides someone moving in the dark earlier that same night. It wasn't clear enough to see details, just movement. We called the police again right away. This time, they took it a lot more seriously. They watched the footage, asked more detailed questions, checked the house more thoroughly. One of them even pointed out that the window in the garage didn't look forced, like it might not have been locked properly. They said they'll try to track the number the messages came from, but again, there wasn't anything immediate they could do. The person was gone. For the next few weeks, everything felt wrong. Even when nothing was happening, it felt like something was about to. I started sleeping with my phone right next to me, lights on sometimes, which I never used to do. Eventually, the police told me they had someone they were looking at. There was a person who matched some of the patterns, but they didn't have enough to arrest him. They said he'd been seen around the area, sometimes at odd hours. They showed me a photo at one point, but the guy in the picture had his face partially covered, like a hoodie pulled down low. I couldn't say for sure if it was the same person from the video. And that was kind of it. I moved out, changed my number, locked down all my social media, stopped posting anything that showed where I was or what I was doing. It's been a few years now. I'm married, I live somewhere else, completely different area. On the outside, my life is normal, like nothing ever happened. But I get this feeling. We never actually caught him, so I don't know if he stopped or if he just got better at not being noticed. It's kind of messy in my head still, so sorry if I jump around a bit. This happened I think 2 summers ago. I was living in this town, nothing going on there, just like houses, some stores, and a lot of woods. Like a lot. Me and my friend Abby used to hang out pretty much every weekend because there wasn't much else to do. We'd either just sit in her car and talk or walk around random places we probably shouldn't be walking around. I remember I stayed over at her place Friday night and we didn't even do anything crazy, just watched stuff. Next day we woke up late, like around noon or something, and her mom was already gone for work, so it was just us. We kind of just sat around for a while, scrolling on our phones and complaining about being bored. I think that's what made us even go out in the first place. There's this old rail line not too far from her house. It's not active anymore. Hasn't been for years. And people sometimes walk on it, but not really deep into it. Like you'll see people near the start, but nobody goes far because it turns into straight woods and it gets quiet in a weird way. I had only been there once before, and we didn't go far that time either, so we decided to walk there just to do something. We weren't planning anything serious, just walking, talking, maybe take some pictures or whatever. It took us like 10 minutes to get there from her house. The start of the rail line is kind of open, like you can still see houses behind you and hear cars if you listen, so it doesn't feel creepy at all at first. We were just talking about stuff. Abby kept stepping on the rails trying to balance, and I remember she almost fell and laughed about it. It was just normal. Like, really normal. We kept walking longer than I expected, though. Usually we would have turned back already, but we just kept going. The houses slowly disappeared behind us, and it got more quiet. Like, you could still hear bugs and stuff, but no cars anymore. I noticed it, but didn't really say anything at first. Eventually, the rail line started going deeper into the woods. Like, the trees got closer, and it kind of felt narrower, even though it wasn't really. That's when I told her we should probably head back soon. She agreed right away, which was kind of surprising because she's usually the one who wants to keep going. We stopped for a minute, just standing there, like deciding, and I remember looking down the rail line ahead, and it just looked empty. Like too empty. I don't know how to explain it better than that. It just didn't look like a place we should keep going into. So we turned around, and this is the part where it starts getting weird. We hadn't been walking back for long, like a minute or two, when Abby kind of slowed down and grabbed my arm a little. I asked her what, and she didn't answer right away. She just kind of nodded her head to the side. There was a man standing just off the side of the tracks, like half in the trees. I didn't see him at first because he wasn't moving. He was standing there. It was just still, like he had been there the whole time and we just didn't notice him somehow. He looked off. I don't want to say homeless because I don't know, but his clothes were dirty and kind of mismatched. What stood out more was what he was holding. He had this big knife, something bigger, and it didn't look store-bought. It looked like something made at home or something, uneven edges and stuff. And in his other hand, he had this thing that looked like a bow and arrow type thing, but not normal. It was kind of crooked and just weird looking. I remember feeling this drop in my stomach, but at the same time, I didn't want to react too much because I didn't know if that would make it worse. Abby whispered, "Just walk," really quietly. So we did. We walked past him on the tracks, and I could feel him looking at us the whole time. I didn't turn my head fully, but I could see him from the corner of my eye. He didn't say anything, didn't move, just watching. Once we got a bit ahead, I kind of looked back quickly, and he wasn't there anymore. Like, not in the same spot at least. I didn't see him at all, actually, which made it worse in a different way. I told Abby, and she said, "Don't look back again," and we just kept walking faster. We were both kind of quiet after that. Like, we didn't say it, but we both knew that wasn't normal. We were like halfway back, still in the wooded part, when we heard something behind us. It sounded like an engine. And then out of nowhere, this black pickup truck came down the trail. And I mean fast. Way too fast for that kind of path. I don't even know how it was driving on it because it's not really a road, it's just the tracks and dirt around it. The truck came up behind us and then stopped really close, like way too close. I froze. Abby kind of stepped in front of me a little, like she didn't know what to do either. The driver door opened and a man got out. He was wearing something over his face, like a mask, just something covering it. I wasn't thinking straight, but I remember his eyes. That's it. And he had a gun. He pointed it at me right away, and I just stopped completely. I couldn't even think, like my brain just paused. Then he grabbed Abby. It happened so fast I didn't even understand what I was seeing at first. He just grabbed her arm and started pulling her toward the truck. She was yelling and trying to pull away, but he was stronger. I didn't move. I know that sounds bad, but I just didn't. I was just staring at the gun and him, and everything felt like it wasn't real. He kept pointing the gun at me while dragging her, and I think he said something, but I don't remember what. I really don't. And then he forced her into the truck. He got back in, and the truck just took off again down the trail. And I was just standing there still. It felt like forever, and also like no time at all. I pulled my phone out and called the cops. When they answered, I couldn't even talk, like my voice wasn't coming out. I was trying to explain, but it came out all mixed up. I kept saying my friend and truck and gun over and over. The lady on the phone kept telling me to slow down and say where I was, which I didn't even fully know how to explain because it's just that rail line. There's no address or anything like that. I ended up saying the name of the road near Abby's house and that we walked down the tracks, and that seemed to help a little. She told me to stay where I was and that officers were coming. I didn't want to stay there though, like at all. I kept looking behind me thinking that guy was going to come back or something, or that same truck would just show up again. But I didn't move far. I walked back a little faster toward where the trees started thinning out because I just didn't want to be in that deeper part anymore. I think I was crying at that point. The police got there. I heard the sirens, and that was the first moment I felt like something might be okay. But even then, it didn't feel real. I remember when they came up to me, I couldn't even look at them properly at first. They asked me what happened, what did the guy look like, what direction the truck went, all that. After a while, and it felt like a long while, but I don't know how long, one of the officers got a call on his radio, and his whole posture kind of changed. He said something back that I didn't understand, and then came over to me and said they found the truck. I didn't even ask where. I just asked, is she there, like right away. He didn't answer immediately, which made me feel sick again, but then he said they found her, and that she was alive. I think that's when I actually started crying for real, like not just holding it in. My legs felt weak, and I had to sit down on the side near the tracks. Everything was kind of blurry after that, but they didn't take me to where she was right away. They had to finish things first or something. I saw Abby later at the station. She wasn't hurt, like bleeding or anything, but she looked completely drained, like all the energy just got taken out of her. Her eyes looked off, like she hadn't really caught up to what happened yet. We didn't talk right away because they kept taking her in and out of rooms, asking her stuff. They did the same with me again too, like more detailed questions this time. I had to go over everything again, and it felt weird because I kept thinking I was going to say something wrong. After some time, she started explaining what happened after he took her. She said when he drove off, he didn't go back toward the road. He went deeper into the woods, like way deeper than we even walked. She said the path got worse, like more uneven, and she thought the truck was going to get stuck at some point. He didn't talk to her much. She said he told her to be quiet at one point, but that was it. He kept driving until he reached this area where there was like a trailer or something. Not like a nice one, just an old one sitting out there. She said there was another man there. When the truck stopped, the guy who took her got out and went toward the trailer. The other man came out and looked confused, like he didn't expect them. She said they started arguing almost right away. She couldn't hear everything, but she said the second man sounded angry, like actually mad at the first one, not like they were working together smoothly. The first guy kept pointing back at the truck, like at her, and the second guy kept shaking his head. She said it got louder for a bit, like they were yelling, and then suddenly both of them just ran, like not toward the truck, not toward her, just into the woods in different directions. And she just stayed there for a second because she didn't even know what to do. She thought it was some kind of trick or they were going to come back, but they didn't. So she got out of the truck and just started walking. She didn't even know where exactly she was going, just away from that place. She said she walked for a while before the police found her. They found that trailer too. They searched it, and apparently there were a bunch of weird things inside, like homemade weapons, not just one or two, but a lot. And writing on the walls or papers, stuff about hurting women and plans and things like that. I didn't see it myself, but that's what they said. They also found a shed nearby. Inside the shed there were chains and just stuff that didn't look normal, like it was meant for holding someone there. The thing that still doesn't make sense is they never found those two men. Like they searched the area and everything, and they asked around, but nothing really came up. No names, no clear identity. And the first man we saw, the one with the knife and that weird bow thing, we don't even know if he was connected to the other two or if that was just something else. But it doesn't feel like a coincidence. It just doesn't. Sometimes I think about how we almost kept walking deeper instead of turning back. Like if we didn't turn around when we did, we might have walked right into wherever that trailer was, or into those guys before they even came out with the truck. And I also think about how I just stood there when he grabbed her. I know there was a gun and all that, but it still bothers me. Like I replay that part a lot and wonder if there was anything I could have done different, even though everyone keeps saying there wasn't. It's just weird knowing that all of that was out there the whole time and we had no idea. Like we were just bored and walking around and ended up right next to something like that. This happened last year, October. Me and my boyfriend, his name is Sean, we had been talking about getting away somewhere for a few days because both of us were just kind of burnt out. I was working, but it was the same thing every day, phones, appointments, insurance calls, all that. We didn't really take trips like that often, so when we finally had a few days that lined up, we just started looking online for somewhere cheap. Not like a hotel, we didn't want that. We wanted something quiet. He found the place first. It was just some listing online. Not even like a big site, it was one of those smaller rental pages. Cabin in the woods type thing. It said it was in a rural area, like pretty far out from the nearest town. That didn't bother us at all. That was kind of the point. The owner was just some guy, I think it was Mark or something close to that. The messages between Sean and him were normal, like nothing weird. He answered questions, told us where to meet to get the key, explained there was another cabin a little distance away, but said it was usually empty. It's just some guy renting his property. And honestly, it didn't feel like a big deal at that point. It took longer than we expected. Like once we got off the main road, it turned into these smaller roads, then eventually just this long stretch that felt like it kept going forever. There were barely any houses, and when there were, they were spaced out a lot. I don't know, it just felt more isolated than I pictured. We met the owner at this little turnout area near the start of a dirt road. He was already there when we pulled up. He didn't get out of his car right away, he just kind of watched us park. That might not mean anything, but it stuck with me later. When he did come over, he was fine, I guess. Middle-aged. He gave Sean the key, showed us on his phone roughly where the cabin was, and pointed down the road. He said something like, "Just follow it straight, you'll see it on the left." Then he mentioned again that there was another cabin further down, but said nobody was supposed to be there that night. That part I remember because later it didn't line up. Anyway, we got back in the car and drove down that dirt road. It was narrow, like just enough for one car, and trees on both sides. No streetlights, obviously. It was still daylight, but it felt darker under the trees. When we reached the cabin, it was small, kind of old but not falling apart or anything. There was a little porch with 2 chairs, and the woods were basically right up against the sides and back. Inside, one main room, small kitchen area, a bedroom, and a bathroom. It smelled a little like wood and dust, not bad, just like a place that isn't used constantly. We spent the evening just settling in. We brought food with us, just normal things. It was around 1 or 2 in the morning when I woke up. It was like that half-asleep feeling where you're not sure why you're awake. Someone knocking on the door. Like someone standing right there and knocking normally, like they expected us to answer. I remember grabbing Sean's arm and kind of shaking him a little, telling him to wake up. He was confused at first, like half asleep, and I just told him, "Someone's at the door." I don't even know why I said it like that. I think I was trying not to panic. He sat up and listened, and right when he did, the knocking happened again. That's when it felt real. We didn't say anything for a few seconds. We just looked at each other, and I could tell he was trying to figure out what to do. It didn't make sense for anyone to be there. It was the middle of the night, and we hadn't seen a single person since we got there. The knocking stopped after that last one. It just stopped. Sean got up first and went toward the window near the door, like slowly, trying not to make noise. I followed behind him, but I stayed back a little. He pulled the curtain just a little bit to look outside. There was nothing. No one on the porch, just darkness and trees. He waited a second, then looked at me like he didn't understand either. I asked him if he saw anything, and he just shook his head. That's when I started feeling actually scared, because it's one thing if someone's there, but it's different when you hear something and there's no one. He went to the door after that. I told him not to open it, like I said it twice, but he said he just wanted to check. He unlocked it and opened it slowly, just enough to look out. I was standing behind him, kind of holding on to his shirt. At first, nothing. Then he stepped out a little more and looked to the side, and that's when he said, "What the hell?" under his breath. I asked him what he saw, and he didn't answer. Then he pointed toward the trees, off to the left. I looked past him and I saw it too, just for a second. A person running through the trees, like sideways, deeper into the woods. It was fast, and it was dark, so I couldn't see details, just the shape of someone moving. Sean stepped back inside immediately and shut the door, locking it right away. We didn't even talk for a few seconds after that. It was just quiet again, but it didn't feel the same kind of quiet as before. It felt wrong, like something was still out there. I kept asking him if he was sure he saw someone, and he kept saying, yeah, he did. And I said I saw it too, but I wasn't even sure what I saw exactly. We ended up turning on more lights in the cabin, like that would help somehow. I remember sitting on the bed, just listening. We started talking about leaving, like actually packing up and going right then, but it was still the middle of the night, and the road was dark, and we didn't really know the area. So we kept going back and forth about it, not really deciding anything. Then, I don't know how long passed, maybe 15 minutes, there was another knock. But this time it was different. It was louder, and it wasn't just a couple knocks. It was like someone trying to get our attention more urgently. And then a voice, saying Sean's name. It said his name like normal, loud enough to be heard through the door. That was the part that made my stomach drop. Not even the knocking itself. Because up until that point, even with the running person, I could still kind of tell myself it was just some random person out there, like maybe someone drunk or lost or something. But hearing his name, that changed it completely. Sean looked at me right away, like I was supposed to have an explanation, which I obviously didn't. Then the voice said his name again, and this time it added something like, "It's me," right after. I don't remember the exact words, but it was that kind of tone, like trying to calm us down. He asked who it was through the door, and the guy answered right away, said he was the owner. The same guy we met earlier. That made it feel a little less insane, but at the same time, it didn't really fix anything because it was still the middle of the night and we didn't know why he would come back. Sean unlocked the door but didn't open it fully. He cracked it just enough to see, and yeah, it was him. Same guy, same clothes, I think, or at least similar. He wasn't acting panicked or anything, just kind of casual, which honestly made it worse in a way. He told us not to worry, said the person who knocked earlier was a friend of his staying in the other cabin. He said something like they had been drinking and probably got confused or thought this was the right place. He apologized, but it didn't feel like a real apology, more like he was just saying it because he had to. Sean asked him why his friend would be running through the trees like that, and the guy kind of paused before answering. He just shrugged it off, said they mess around sometimes, like it was nothing. Then he repeated that everything was fine and told us to just lock the door and get some rest. That was it. He didn't stay long. He turned and walked back toward the road, not even looking back. We locked the door again right away. Sean was standing there for a second just staring at the door. Then he turned around and was like, that didn't make sense. And yeah, it didn't, because earlier he told us no one was staying in the other cabin. That was one of the things he said when we first met him. I remember that, because I even asked Sean about it in the car, like, so we're the only ones out here? And he said, yeah, that's what the guy said. So now suddenly there's a friend staying there, showing up in the middle of the night, knocking on our door, running through the woods. It didn't add up at all. We didn't go back to sleep after that. Not even close. We just stayed up, sitting there talking in low voices, trying to decide what to do. We kept going back to leaving, but it felt risky to drive out in the dark on that road, especially when we didn't even know what was out there. At one point, maybe like half an hour later or something, we saw headlights through the trees. You could see the light moving between the gaps. Then another set behind it. 2 cars. They went further down the road in the direction of the other cabin. That made everything feel worse again, because now it wasn't just one friend. It was multiple people showing up in the middle of the night to a place that was supposed to be empty. Sean went to the window and watched as long as he could, but eventually the lights disappeared deeper into the trees. After that, it went quiet again for a while. It could have been an hour, maybe less. But eventually we started hearing something. At first it was faint, like you almost couldn't tell if it was real or not. It sounded like someone yelling. Not like talking loud, I mean like yelling. And then it turned into something else, like crying. A woman's voice. It didn't sound like normal crying. It was like distressed, like something was wrong, but you couldn't tell what. I remember looking at Sean and just saying, "Do you hear that?" Even though I knew he did. He nodded, but didn't say anything. We just sat there listening. The sounds were coming from the direction of the other cabin. That part was obvious. There was nothing else out there. It went on for a while, like it would stop and then start again. Sometimes it sounded like more than one person talking, but I couldn't make out words. Just noise, yelling, crying, something hitting something. I'm not even sure about that part. It just felt like there was more going on than just voices. At one point I said we should call someone, like the police or something, but Sean hesitated. He said we didn't even know exactly where we were, and what would we even say? It sounded bad, but it also didn't sound clear enough to explain. And then, before we could really decide anything, we heard footsteps outside. Not knocking this time, just footsteps on the porch. Slow, like someone walking back and forth. We both froze again. It was like everything just reset back to that same feeling from earlier, but worse. Then the handle moved. Someone tried to open the door. It didn't open because it was locked, but you could hear them pushing on it, like testing it. Sean stood up right away and grabbed the chair that was near the table, like he was going to use it if he had to. I stayed back, but I couldn't move much anyway. Then voices. Not the owner this time. Different voices. 2 of them. They were talking to each other at first, kind of low and fast, like arguing or something. I couldn't understand everything, but it sounded creepy, like their words didn't fully make sense or they were slurring or something. Then one of them started talking toward the door, saying stuff like, "We know you're in there and open it." The tone changed too, like it wasn't casual at all. It sounded aggressive, but also kind of not fully there, if that makes sense. Like they weren't thinking straight. Sean told them to leave, like loud enough for them to hear, and that just made them react more. One of them laughed. They started hitting the door, slamming their hands or shoulders into it. The whole door shook a little. I thought they were going to break it. I actually thought that was about to happen. I remember saying we should go out the back or something, even though I knew that didn't make sense because it was just more woods. Then suddenly, another voice. The owner again. He came up fast, like you could hear him yelling before you saw anything. He was shouting at them, telling them to get back, saying stuff like, "Not here," and "not them." The 2 guys outside started arguing with him. It sounded messy, like they weren't really listening. Then there was more yelling, and eventually the noise started moving away from the door. We stayed completely still, just listening to it all move off the porch. After a few minutes, everything went quiet again. Sean just stood there holding the chair, like he was waiting for them to come back. I think we both expected that, but they didn't. Sean just said we're leaving. We packed everything fast, not even caring if we forgot something. We didn't turn off half the lights. We just grabbed what we could and went. Got in the car and left right away. We didn't see the other cabin on the way out, or if we did, I didn't notice. I wasn't really looking at anything except the road. We didn't go back, obviously. Sean tried to message the owner later, just asking what that was about, but he never responded. The listing disappeared a few days after that, too. I checked it myself because I didn't believe him at first. At the time, it just felt easier to leave it alone and not get pulled into whatever that was. I don't know if it was actually some kind of cult thing like Sean said, or just a group of people doing something they shouldn't have been doing out there. Either way, it didn't feel random. It felt organized in a way, even if it was messy. The owner knew exactly what was going on and still rented that place out like nothing.